Well, hello and welcome to our second portrait attempt at a status chat. Maybe the mobile devices will get more play if we do it this way. I personally prefer the landscape. It's easier to read, I think. The web pages, most web pages are set up for it. But anyway, this is episode 272. 9/11/25. Of course, I am Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. You would never guess that with that background, Benchmark Realty. And we see our title for this episode is Target Rate Cut Expected. Now, to find this show and others like it, you can go to the YouTube page. You can freeze frame. You can camera over. You can do any of your magic tricks to get the link from the QR code above my head. And we will, of course, in the description of the status chat, put these links of these things because we really don't have time to get in there and digest things and keep it short at the same time, or short for me. So what are we talking about when I said that they are expected? Well, as far as your mortgage rates, we have seen them kind of coming down a little bit. We've seen that possibly because people are trying to guess what the chair meant when he was kind of signaling. But remember, he never commits himself because he really can't. He has to have they have to have the committee, open market committee, to make the decision. And that's not happened yet. So he can only hint it. That's what he thinks he wants to do. And that they normally go along. We do have a little disruption because one of our Fed Board of Governors has apparently been a very naughty girl and violated mortgage laws and several other things at least 3 times. So she's not going to be there. I don't know if that will cause retaliation in our Democrat chairman, if he'll then accelerate rate cuts to spur on inflation. I don't know, just to be spiteful because he's coming out of the game pretty soon. It's the fourth quarter for him. Don't really know what that's going to happen. It could, either way, nothing is totally good or evil. Rate cuts can certainly help if we have a credit card, revolving credit, something that's tied to the cost of money. Cutting the Fed rate can help those credit cards a little bit, maybe get off some of that balance that you might have to it. At the same time, it can spur inflation if it heats up the economy. We'll take a look at a couple of things as we go along. Let's start with this one right here. This is from the Board of Governors, Federal Reserve System, Consumer Credit, the G19. So let's go on down here to this consumer credit outstanding. Now, here's the problem that I have when I try to do this portrait mode stuff. We're going to have to switch. Now, here I can definitely see the percentage of change in the annual rate. This is for credit outstanding. So let's go ahead and hit that. Now, this gives me a little slider, and I'm going to come down here to 24 and 25. Now, they have rolled off quarters 1, and of course, we haven't got our quarters 3 yet in on 2025. So we have to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt and compare the trend to where things were. 2% change in credit outstanding, 1.1. That would be an improvement because people were getting stuff paid down, except this is the end of 2024. 1.1, 2.4, 2.4. So they're saying 2024 ended at about 2.0, but we like lower numbers of percentage change in outstanding credit. We got the first quarter, 1.2, 2.8, big jump in 2.8. And it looks like when we net these together and come up with a little average, look like they're going to be pretty high, maybe closer to 2.8 because we had a 1.9, a 2.3, and a 3.8. So if this is 2 and that's nearly 4, it's going to be closer to 3 really, which is going to be about that right there. So that's enough for that. What about our PPI? Because we want to know what increases. The phone exploded. Let's fire the producer because he didn't put his phone on. That'd be the on-air talent, so I didn't put my phone on quiet. We had it blow up. But anyway, let's look at the PPI because we might want to get an ID of what our loading before we look at the CPI, the consumer credit. This is the producer. We see that we were down in the products and up in the services. So it looks like we have plus 2.6% since August. That would be our blue one, and negative one in. And I think we can click on those and look at each individual one. Let's look at our products, see if it'll kick up. Again, in this format, not real great with that. Looks like it's coming. Looks like it was down. It's going back up, so we might be losing it. Let's see if we can do a zoom in kind of thing and see that last of that line, because I am a graphical kind of guy. We definitely came down. I don't see it going back up. So let's look at the CPI. CPI is interesting. CPI is what we just have versus what we've got loading, which would be the producer prices. They're going to fall into the consumers. And we see that everything is really right about 3%. And Mr. Chairman said that he wasn't going to quit raising rates. And then once he got them flat, he wasn't going to lower rates until we got to an inflation rate around 2%. And he started coming down a little bit, didn't get there, and he cut it 4 quarter points, 2 at first, 2 more after that. So a total of 3 cuts for 1 percentage point in the tail end of 24, around election time. Now we've got a new change. What is going on here? Well, we're going back up. Looks like we're going up nearly 0.5% on the CPI, right? And on the core, we are over 3%. So here's my mixed bag of things going on. Our CPI is going up. Our inflation is already igniting. We do see that we might be getting some lowering rates as anticipated, maybe a quarter point. Some people are even thinking, if you look at the CME Fed Watch tool, they even have odds on a 2 cut. So instead of being just a quarter point, maybe half a point. The mortgage market's already factored this in. So if we get a cut, it's likely not going to affect your purchasing power based upon your total out of pocket, because it's already kind of built in there. That's part of what I say is expected. If it doesn't happen, I think people are still of the mind that if it doesn't happen this time, it'll happen the next meeting, and that could be. But I almost am in the middle of thinking, well, rather than no cut or 2 cuts, I'm thinking 1 cut is probably the likelihood, the most likeliest possibility that we see this week. So there we got that. But when we look at what we've got going on, I am concerned that we might reignite inflation if we heat up the economy. What is the other side of that coin? Okay, if this is the obverse, what is the reverse side, the back of the coin? Well, that would be right here with initial jobless claims. Let's look at how our labor is going. Now, this says that our initial claims was 263,000 for the week of September 6th, right? And that's 27,000 higher than the previous week. Now we can see it down there on the bottom. Let's see if I can do the zoom in thing and pull over. And we can see this is a trend that we really don't necessarily like. Out of 300 million people, not all of working age, but we really don't really see it at less than 300,000. This is not a lot of people in initial claims for the week. So, but it did jump quite a bit. And that's part of our expectation, I think, for a target rate cut is unemployment. Remember, that's always a double-sided coin. You cut rates, you raise inflation, you let inflation come down, it can cause job losses. And so it's that soft landing scenario that never existed before. And I don't think Mr. Fed Chair was ever going to pull it off. I don't think it's happened yet. And he's about to run out of time. So anyway, that's it. What do you say we kick over to our numbers for this week? All right. Now, the first one we had from the previous week, which would have been 9/4 of 25, we saw a decrease in availabilities from the previous period, 28,829 in MSA, we look at 4,486 in the under contracts. The ratio between them on energy level did increase 1 percentage point to 16%. In other words, we have the 4,486 is a little bit a bigger portion of the total availables. Now let's look at this week's numbers. They are at 9,1125. 29,000. That's increase in opportunities, that inventory going up. So that could be good for you buyers, seeing more options, more competitive things. Oh, and remember, when you're trying to buy a house, your competition isn't with the seller. That's not who you're fighting against on your desires to find your new home. Your competition is going to come from other buyers. So they're the opponents, not the seller. And the seller's the same way. When you're a seller, if you're selling a house, you're competing against other properties and other houses, not the buyer. So I saw one post earlier this week where they're like taking a side. They're either like the seller side or the buyer side. And to get a transaction to go, to be honest, both sides probably will be a little bit disappointed, thinking that maybe they should have gotten a little bit more. And other ones thinking maybe they paid a little less. Perhaps they should pay a little less. Anyway, it's just the way the numbers work, the way the game works. It's a cooperation to get both of you together where no side is really running away from it, with the ball. So we're at 29,268 in the availables, 45,71 in the under contracts, and the ratio did remain the same at 16%. So there we have it.